Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CoROM podcast. This is where academic medicine meets remote, austere, and resource-limited areas. Welcome back to the program. This is Aebhric OKelly. This week, we are with Corey Igo, who is a CoROM Remote Paramedic graduate. Corey, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a bit about yourself and what's keeping you busy.
I'm a former United States Marine. I've done a lot of security work internationally. I also study foreign languages. I've worked as a medical interpreter. And right now I'm working with a rehab program for veterans here in Ukraine, where we use Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, amidst other things, to help with physical rehabilitation of veterans.
That's fantastic. I've not heard of that. So how does Brazilian Jiu Jitsu help with rehab?
It's really good. It's really good for a lot of them to use their bodies again. They can compete. A lot of the amputees, especially those with the lower limb amputations, they can compete at the same level as any person without any injuries. In fact, it may give them an advantage. So it really helps with physical exercise, consistency, discipline, being part of a group, and a lot of the, I guess, the camaraderie as well.
So for those that don't know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that it's a ground fighting thing or what precisely is it?
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was a form of Jiu Jitsu that was developed in Brazil. It doesn't necessarily have to be done on the ground, but it usually does end up on the ground. I mean, most of the tournaments, they'll begin with the competitors on their feet. But it quite frequently ends in the ground, and it involves a lot of submissions, a lot of joint locks, chokes. It was made most famous in the beginning of the Ultimate Fighting Championship by Royce Gracie, who won the first 2 or 3 Ultimate Fighting Championships using it, and he won a lot of those fights while on his back on the ground.
How did you get from there to from where you started? So you started out as a Marine, which has nothing to do with medicine. Mm-hmm. The Marines are very proud that no medical person, like everyone's a rifleman. Isn't that the thing to say?
Everyone's so basic rifleman, that's correct.
So how did you get, wait, were you 0311 as well?
I was an 0341. I was a mortarman.
That means you carry a big and very heavy rucksack.
Big, heavy rucksack, unless you were with the big guns in the trucks. But yes, we carried a lot of weight.
That's a 60 millimeter mortar, isn't it?
Yeah, 60 millimeters would be carried on foot, and the bigger ones you could actually load up into a truck. Some of the soft skin Humvees. But I was in the Marine Corps from 1999 to 2003, so a lot of stuff has changed since then. I'm not sure what they're using now, but that was how I got my start. And I got my start in medicine that way too. I mean, we first learned about self-aid and buddy aid, and we learned the basics of first aid there. We didn't get too in depth into detail, but after I left the Marine Corps, I got involved in security contracting. I was in close protection and personal security details, and I started to work with a lot of more experienced medics, 18 Deltas, and others, and they would want us to be able to be the medic in case they went down. So they started to teach us more advanced medicine, and I was one of the guys that I was just very intellectually curious about how everything worked. They would carry IVs, and they would say, if we start an IV and we put an IV in you, we can do a lot. And I would say, how? Like, why are we starting IVs? What's that mean? What's that do? What's in the bag? How does that bag help if somebody got shot? I don't really understand the science of it. So I just kept asking questions, and the guys were always happy to talk about it. And they finally said, hey, why don't you take a course? Why don't you just take any course? An anatomy course, a physiology course, a pathophysiology course. If you're curious, pick up a book and learn about it. So I just started learning piece by piece by piece, and I'm still intellectually curious of how the human body works. Now I'm becoming more interested in neurology. I know very little about it, so I don't think I can contribute much for the podcast about it. But it's what I'm becoming most interested in now. So that's kind of how I went from being a Marine who joined it, wanted to do the exciting stuff that Marines do to somebody became more interested in medicine because I became more fascinated with the sciences of it.
So what was your first medical course? Did you do an EMT in the States, or what was your first jump into this?
I guess the first official course that I did would be an EMT course in the States. And that would be discounting all the TCCC courses I did and the combat lifesavers that I did, the multiple, ones that we would do with our medics on the ground and the on the job stuff that I did in the field. But yeah, the official to be officially registered as a licensed medical professional was an EMT course in the U.S. based out of Nevada. It was an EMT course. I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't really enjoy it. Well, I enjoyed the course. I liked a lot of it. I liked the science. I liked the anatomy. I liked the physiology. But the protocols, they were a bit demotivating. Having worked with a lot of our military medics who they were adapting and improvising and finding ways to save the patient, no matter what. Going from that to understanding a set of protocols and liabilities was a bit demotivating, but it didn't stop me. I kept learning and I kept doing more. So that was the first one that I did.
And you were looking for a paramedic program. So what other options were you looking at, and why did you decide to do the CoROM Remote Paramedic?
I had found some other ones. I was going to do the National Registry of the EMT paramedic course. There's one in the U.S. that I could do. I was looking into that one. I was looking at an intermediate EMT course, and some friends that I was working with on a contract, some paramedics from the United States and the United Kingdom, they advised me to do the CoROM paramedic course because they said it was far more practical and useful to the work that we were doing. And they said if you can always go through one of the other ones, but if you want to learn something that's going to be applicable to the environments you're working in, go through the CoROM course. It's a really good course, and it encompasses more than just Department of Transportation ambulance style of work. It's stuff that you'll use in all situations.
And now that you've been doing this for 6 years, were they correct? Is this course giving you the skills that you need to do very good work at what you're doing? Because you're definitely working in difficult locations.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's such a wide range of skills. Doing the paramedic course and having worked professionally as a paramedic is one thing, but also the general knowledge that you got of how the medical systems work, everything from the administrative side of it in the various different countries where we work, the surgical side of it, different types of technology that are needed to treat specific types of injuries, diagnostics, understanding the logistics needed to set up a clinic. Yeah, it's definitely much more applicable because a lot of times for me in my work, I'll be set to do the job of the paramedic, and if I need to save a life, I have what I have to save a life, what I can have in a bag, or maybe it'll be in a truck, or maybe we'll have a little bit more at times, but more frequently than not, a lot of what I'll use is my knowledge of how these hospital systems work and finding a good hospital with good surgeons. Do they have a dialysis machine? Is there somebody there that can intubate and put somebody on a ventilator if we need to? Is there a CT scanner there in the case that someone may have a stroke? And is there a thrombolytic that we may need to use it? And if we have a head injury from a vehicle wreck, a vehicle accident or any other accident, is there someone who can do that? Along with a lot of the other illnesses and injuries that will happen, putting a stent in. Look, understanding how to diagnose the patients and having the experience of diagnosing patients and seeing a patient that may need lab work done or further analysis done is probably I would say of the more applicable things that I've used, but I've used a lot. me being the primary provider isn't really always the best way to treat the patient. Diagnosing them and pre-hospital care, of course, diagnosing them, stabilizing them, and then finding the right place to bring them usually usually is the solution.
So now that you've been doing this for 6 years, what would you have liked to learn on the CoROM Remote Paramedic program that we did not teach you?
Oof. Well, that's a tough question because although I'm happy that you think I was a good student, I wasn't a perfect student. So there are probably some things that you taught me that I didn't learn. I would like to take the course again. I would like to take the course again, but I would say that in the paramedic course, we didn't focus as much on minor illnesses and injuries as I did later on in some of the follow-on courses I took with CoROM. And in a lot of my remote paramedic work, that was what I would see more frequently. When I did my clinical trials, the life-saving work in the hospital, it was a hospital, regional hospital in East Africa, and they had a triage there. So if somebody came in with a bad skin rash, well, they didn't get into the emergency room. They waited. So when I would be out in the field, or a random person would come up to me in a place I was staying with a skin rash, I would just said, that's not a big deal. I would look at it like that. But later on, I found out with a lot of the remote medicine, for example, with a film crew, if someone has a minor illness or injury like that and it doesn't go treated, well, then they can require hospitalization. And even if it's not life-threatening, it can be a it can be very bad for the production. Like, they might actually have to shut down the production, especially if you're filming in a limited access area, because your escort has to take that person to a hospital. So yeah, I would say I would have liked to have done more of the minor illnesses and injuries that we saw later. But I learned that with the follow-on courses that I took from CoROM.
So you went through when it was a 1-year program, is that right?
Yeah, it was about 1 year. It may have been a little bit longer, depending on how you worked your clinicals. But it was about a 1-year program, if I recall. Mm-hmm.
Your statement is one reason why we've added year 2 and year 3, and now it's a full bachelor's program, because we did see that we needed to add the minor illnesses, some of the primary care. So the years 2 and 3 are a lot more didactic and covering some of those skills that you learned on the in the eye care or the TTAMs, didn't you? You took some follow-on courses.
Yeah, I took quite a few follow-on courses. I really liked the pharmacology course, but the minor illnesses and injury course, I would say that was the one where I would say, yeah, these are the things that I'm seeing. These are the things that I'm seeing more frequently. You know, if it goes untreated, yeah, sure thing. You have more time. You have more time, so you can go research it, and that's fine. But yeah, those are the things that you see more frequently, and so yeah, that would be something I'd focus on more.
So what was your first paid job as a CoROM Remote Paramedic graduate?
Well, that would be the Discovery Channel reality show that we did in Tanzania in 2020, in the month of March, as the COVID pandemic was beginning. I worked on a reality show where we had a family doing a series of challenges in Tanzania, starting with diving in Zanzibar and ending with climbing Kilimanjaro. They did a safari in Arusha. They did some kung fu training, and they spent some time in a Maasai village. So that was the first paid job I had, and that means I had to work. I had to do some of my dive medicine stuff. I had to keep that stuff, that critical care flight paramedic stuff on standby, and brush up on it, and find the right equipment in case we had a dive injury. Plus all the tropical medicine. I mean, you get in Zanzibar, there's jellyfish there, so people aren't dying from it, from the jellyfish bites, but it is something you got to be ready to treat, and you may just want to grab what's necessary to treat it there, and then researching, using our local contacts, local doctors, to find out, what do you got to worry about in Arusha? Does Arusha have a lot of malaria? Is there anything else? Well, there was a specific type of fly there. That type of fly carried a specific type of bacteria, and there's a specific type of symptom if you have that bacterial infection. So knowing that, knowing what to look for, having them check for that was just part of it, and informing them about how tuberculosis is something that can be ingested. I want to say, and I don't want to say it incorrectly, but when beef is improperly prepared, people do get tuberculosis from it. And then Kilimanjaro, we had to do the altitude medicine. So and we had a lot of people with symptoms, and we had to give medication for it. I'm gonna be lazy and use the drug name of Diamox, but there's an actual, with a trade name of Diamox, there's an actual name to it, but that can have a side effect of a kidney problem, and then those type of kidney problems can require dialysis. And there was only one dialysis machine that we had located, and nobody had a problem with it, but it was just a contingency plan we had with it. And 3 days before we ascended the mountain, we were informed that the airport was going to be closed because of the COVID restrictions. And when we came down, I think our guys got out on the last flight. So that was the first paid job I had was with that TV crew. So I got a lot of experience with it.
You were paid to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Paid to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, to spend a night in a Maasai village with a Shaolin monk, learn kung fu from the Shaolin monk on his breaks, and go swimming in Zanzibar. I mean, they put us up in a really nice Hollywood level resort in Zanzibar, and it was quite a bit of downtime. So I got to enjoy it, and also go on a safari. You get paid to do all those things. It's a benefit of working with media.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around the Kung Fu and the Tanzanian connection. Is there some sort of Tanzanian martial art, or is it they just brought in a Chinese Shaolin monk?
So the producers of the show, they wanted to show how people could psychologically prepare themselves to overcome the challenge of climbing Kilimanjaro. So they started in Poland with Wim Hof. He's known as the Iceman. I was not there for that. But he had showed them some breathing techniques to deal with their anxiety. And we had a breathology coach. I don't have his name on hand, but he held a free diving record for the longest held breath, and he was going to help them with their oxygen deficiency when they reached altitude. The Shaolin monk, he was there to help them with their mental attitude. They're keeping a positive attitude through everything. He was their favorite, but it was a decision of the producers, and he was everybody's favorite though. Everybody liked him. He had a positive attitude, and the guy I talked to him personally. He was almost 60 years old, and he could throw a kick above your head and hold it there. And I mean, he walked around like he was 20. So a great guy.
Did you see any altitude illnesses during your climb?
Oh yes, from the first day, a lot of people had symptoms. We did have to. It might even be on film. I'm not sure if it is, but I did have to remove a guy from the top after he ascended. And a number of people had to go down before they reached the top, and which I think almost everybody had symptoms. But rapid descent was what I was with. I was with a doctor who had worked at the altitude clinic in Moshi, the city closest to Kilimanjaro, and rapid descent is the best treatment, they would always say, and you would need to do the follow-ons in the clinic. And the tricky part of this one is the symptoms of the natural symptoms that you get when you get to an oxygen deficient zone, or you're going to have an accelerated heart rate. With the air pressure being lower, you can have some chest pains I don't know how to describe it, the volume, the volume of the hollow organs, it tends to expand, and that can put pressure on the chest. So a lot of people think they're having a myocardial infarction or something like this. And this can lead to a panic attack, which makes it all worse. But we had but no, on the overall, we didn't have any serious injuries. We did have a couple bumps and bruises, but we did have one that looked like he was struggling on the top, but as we moved him down, he got better.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to work in Kilimanjaro Christian Medical Center, and you have these people who are being pulled off the mountains and they're critically unwell at altitude. By the time they come down, their symptoms are dropped so much they don't even want to go in the hospital.
No, yeah, yeah, that was probably the biggest thing. They didn't want to, as soon as they got down there, they didn't want to go in there. Um, a lot of people take a look at a hospital. It's not a happy place. They didn't want to go in there, but oh yeah, the symptoms. The gentleman that we had to remove from the top of the mountain, or I was requested by his wife to get him removed from the top of the mountain. He was on coming down to the bottom. It almost looked like he was going to run over our guide. I mean, he was he was ready, and he was ready to run. So yeah, altitude. The thing about it is you don't know who it's going to affect. We had three professional athletes with us: one NBA player, one professional tennis player, and I think a professional football player. Football being European, not American. Um, so all of them really good, and then their parents, and I want to say the mother of the tennis player was about 57 years old, and she had zero problems with any of the oxygen deficiency. It was like she was walking around her garden. It was nothing. But then some of us, the physically fit, athletic types, we were struggling. Some of our physically fit, athletic types on the camera crew. I mean, they were struggling. And then some of the non-fit people weren't. It's just it's a science that I don't think has been well, like any other science, it hasn't been definitively researched.
People often forget about the camera crew, but they're following you up with all this heavy equipment, and they've got to deal with that altitude as well.
Well, yeah, so we had that plus they needed to do shots, so they have to bound in front of them to catch them coming forward, and then they have to watch them pass. Then they have to, again, like bound in front of them again, so they can catch them coming forward again. And we had drones flying around, so we didn't want to get in the shot of the drones. We kind of had to run and duck and hide like soldiers, and that's not what's advised for climbing at oxygen deficient altitudes. You're supposed to be slow and steady, like they would say, like a chameleon. The guides would tell us. So it made it more difficult, definitely.
Did you have a nice sunrise at the top?
Yeah, we did. We managed to get up there. It was clear. It's not always clear up there. There were, I mean, we had some people get sunburns that never get sunburns. Some people did not wear sunglasses, and the glacier on the top, the reflection of the sun on the glacier at the top, caused minor injuries to the eyes. Because it is that much brighter. I mean, that being that much closer to the sun at that altitude, it does have an effect. Something that I wasn't aware of before I had gone up there. But yeah, you do need to wear the eye protection up there, and yeah, we could see everything. We could see everything down there, and just walking down and feeling stronger every step was a good feeling.
Did you see any tropical diseases on that one?
Well, on the mountain, we did not see them on the mountain, and I want to say we had a pretty good run. I mean, Zanzibar isn't bad. It was the clinics that we had worked in Zanzibar, nobody had any malaria report. There were jellyfish bites. I don't know if we would call it tropical disease, but it's to the environment. But yeah, we got lucky, I think, in Arusha, the Maasai village. Some people did get bit by the flies, but I believe that we didn't have any serious symptoms from that, and so I think we got a little bit lucky with that. But yeah, we didn't see anything. We didn't see any there. We didn't see any there.
Yeah, the flies that carry leishmaniasis are not as common in the sub-Saharan Africa. Yeah. So what other jobs have you had as a CoROM graduate? I did the world's toughest forces. I did the Columbia one.
that was a little bit easier on me. This was where you took there was a U.S. Navy SEAL, a U.S. Army Ranger, and a British former SBS, and they went and did a series of challenges working with the Colombian counter narcotics police in the jungle in Colombia. So we went down to a lower elevation in this one. We started in Bogota. Bogota is about, it's almost as tall as Kilimanjaro, actually. I want to say, but it's quite high up. And then we went down to El Espinal, very very hot jungle. And this was on this particular thing. Most of what I treated were minor injuries from bug bites, from sunburns, from ingested pathogens, and then we had to prepare contingency plans for all the things they were doing. They did helo casting, so they were dropped out of a helicopter into a lake, and as is stated in the program, people had died during the helo casting training. So, we worked with our Colombian counterparts. They had a great team. They do some very very good, not just tropical medicine, but tactical field medicine in the jungle. And we had organized for them to have a dive team on standby. So they had rescue divers, but they said, well, we have rescue divers, but they're not always available. And I said, I talked to one of the rescue divers. I said, do you guys like training? I said, yeah. I said, well, maybe we could get you guys a training day when we do the helo casting, and then we can put you there as a safety, and then that way if somebody does go down, you guys can, with your scuba tanks, you can go down there and you can pull them out. And they liked the idea, so they were there. But that one was one where it was a lot of minor injuries, but it was also getting the contingency plans for rappelling, helo casting, spending a night in the jungle, crossing rivers. And they used explosives, and then of course we had a little bit of force on force. But it was a very very interesting program. Really good group.
So currently, right now, you're in Ukraine, and your name keeps popping up on different networks I have in Ukraine, and you've been there a bit. What was your first deployment in Ukraine?
The first work that I did in Ukraine was in 2014 as a security advisor for the media, and that was when the Euromaidan began. And then I went with my client to Crimea. They did the annexation of Crimea, and then the Donbass when the situation there began. And that was actually, I was encouraged by my employer, a security company, to take as many medical courses as I could. He said, you're a security advisor, you can speak Ukrainian, you can speak Russian, this is great. It's really, really good for insurance companies if you can get any type of official, actual medical certification, even if it's just a CPR card. But that was what it started. It started with that, and really in 2014 was the first work that I had done here was with the Euromaidan and the annexation of Crimea, followed with the Donbass. Having worked with the press, I don't want to say something that's not officially correct, so I'm avoiding saying it as anything else. It wasn't an annexation. You could say the anti-terrorist operation was what it was officially called by the Ukrainian government when the separatists started to seize different areas there. I think that would be how it was officially described by the Ukrainian government at the time. That was how it started, and I've just done my best while here to help a lot of the Ukrainians I've worked with get the supplies they need. There's a lot of really, really brilliant people here. We can learn a lot from them. They've been, dealing with all the hardships that you learn from, and the harder it is, the more you learn from it. And they have adapted and innovated some great stuff. So I do my best to just communicate with them as best as I can and help them get what they need, because they really contribute a lot, and it's rarely mentioned that they're contributing a lot to all of the NATO countries and the U.S. with what they're learning out there, and so we're getting a lot from them, and they're doing a lot to help us.
I don't think that's mentioned enough of how much we are learning from them, how much they are doing for us as European citizens to protect us, but what they're learning. So I was there last summer with CoROM. We were doing that DCRU course. Man, the amount of stuff that these combat lifesavers and combat medics were teaching me about what's happening on the front lines, and we really need. I'm former Green Beret. I can say, oh, we're the best of the best. Well, they have more recent knowledge. They have an excellence at the current conflicts, and as I'm not wanting to speak for all special forces, but as Green Berets, we've been fighting the last war, and the GWOT is over, and there's a new paradigm of conflict, and we're losing out if we don't talk to the Ukrainians of and how they've been fighting, how they've been surviving and doing very well, and we need to learn that. We need to document this.
Yeah, I think that's the key point. Really, it doesn't get mentioned that they're contributing a ton to us. They've had field surgical teams since 2014. They did it on their own, and since then they've been adapting. And nowadays, with the use of the drone technologies and everything, I mean, they've done so much. I don't know where to start. I would love to see them in the U.S. and in Europe. Teaching some seminars. I think they should be invited to teach some seminars over there. I think that would be very beneficial if they did.
So, Corey, what's next for you? What's on your horizon?
Well, my biggest thing, I'm working with this rehab right now, and I'll occasionally do some coordination to help some supplies and things like this for our guys out there providing aid on the front. But I'm really interested in seeing how we can provide better rehabilitation for guys that are injured, especially with amputations. Technology's improved, prosthetics have improved, therapies have improved, and the different methods that they're using here for this seem to be very effective. Our team that does jiu-jitsu, they won the world championship in Abu Dhabi this last year. But there's a lot of athletes that are they're rehabilitating their bodies completely and using things like acupuncture, and there's a lot of new technology I have to learn about. But yeah, focused on rehabilitation. We've saved the life of the guy in the front. Now let's make sure that these people can live a full life. To get to moving around like they were before, because that's a different challenge, and it's got to be approached differently. I have to learn a lot about it. It's a bit new to me.
Is 3D printing making so at the moment there's tons of 3D printing in Ukraine? They kind of are in the cutting edge of how they're designing these things. So is 3D printing an option for yourself as well?
The organization working with TMS, the Mission Submission, they do have some 3D printing capabilities, I think, and they also have some. I want to say they were talking about a virtual reality thing that their psychologists were using. Yeah, 3D printing seems to be a big thing here. I don't use it with what I do, so I can't really contribute much to comment on it, but I have heard people say good things. That's about as much as I can give.
Corey, my final question for you is this. What advice do you have for the new nurse, the new paramedic, the new doc who is just starting out in their career in austere medicine?
Oh, in austere medicine. So when you go into austere medicine, you need to learn how to do a lot with a little. So look at your locals, find your locals that are finding ways to do a lot with a little, and see how they're adapting and how they're improvising. Because a lot of times an experienced nurse, doctor, or clinician will come to an environment, and there's certain things that would be required to have a hospital or an ambulance aren't there, and they don't know what to do without them. So you're going to have to adapt your mindset into thinking about what's essential. I would say, if I could simplify it, would be to that. But yeah, it's really has to do with learn how to do a lot with a little, and see how the locals are overcoming their logistical challenges.
That's good advice, and it's been fantastic to hear what you have been doing with your work, with your experience with CoROM, and the fact you're doing such excellent work in Ukraine. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you for everything. I've enjoyed all the programs and everything done with CoROM, and it's been a great journey. And I hope to continue on and have more stories to tell in the future.
This has been a presentation from the College of Remote and Offshore Medicine. If you would like to earn CPD credits for this podcast, you can join the Council of Members. Being a member of the college gives you free CPD credit, free access to our virtual field guide, and discounts on our e-learning courses. You can join the team on our college website at corom.edu.mt.